Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports Talk back to the video today, and today we're going to be recapping day 2 of free agency for the Houston Texans. We went over day 1 yesterday. Day 2 was an interesting day for this Houston Texans team, but not as interesting as day 1. You had the major Laremy Tunsil trade, and you had 7 signings. Today we have 1 more trade for this Houston Texans team and 4 signings. So a lot to cover, but not as much as yesterday. But still, very interesting topics to go over. We started off talking about the Laremy Tunsil trade yesterday. Let's start off talking about a trade today. Big trade for the Texans, not as blockbuster as Laremy Tunsil, but C.J. Gardner-Johnson is a Houston Texan. The safety who played 16 games last season with the Eagles, 6 interceptions, 116 yards returned with an interception touchdown, which pick 6, 12 pass defense, and 1 forced fumble with 60 tackles last season for the Texans. Also playing 12 games in 2022, he had 6 interceptions returned for 54 yards, 8 passes of defense, and a sack with 70 tackles for the Eagles defense in 2022. Now the Texans bring him in. What did they give up? Well, nothing. I mean, it was a huge give up that really just the worst Houston Texans draft pick in the Nick Caserio area. I'm not trying to hate on Nick Caserio at all because he's made some huge, amazing draft selection for this Houston Texans team. But I think all of us can agree that's the worst draft pick he's ever made. And that's okay. We all, you're not going to hit every first round pick, but he has been horrendous. Let's start off with the fact that he's missed 26 of the 55 games at regular season and playoffs in the last 3 seasons as a Houston Texan. Texans have played 55 games. He has missed 26 of those games. When he's been on the field for 29 of those games, he's been absolutely terrible. And so you send him to Philadelphia, get rid of him. I know there is some hope that he could potentially turn into something special there with how good Philly is at turning offensive linemen into great players. But I don't think that was going to happen here. And the Texans give up a terrible offensive guard to get a guy like C.J. Gardner-Johnson who just had 6 picks and a forced fumble this season. It's a huge trade. And you think, the Texans probably gave up some nice draft capital in this trade as well. No, they gave up a 5th-round pick and got back a 6th-round pick. So only a pick swap. And that's not even in this year's draft. That's next year's draft. So this was an amazing trade for the Houston Texans, and I really love this deal for them. And also, this is an upgrade over Jimmy Ward. I mean, you got in the safety room, you have C.J. Gardner-Johnson, you have C.J. Gardner-Johnson, you have Jalen Petrie and Kalen Bullock. I'd imagine Jimmy Ward's not going to be on this roster anymore with C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Jalen Petrie and Kalen Bullock on the team. So I think that's another great part of this trade for the Texans is the fact that maybe the Texans can save some cap space and cut Jimmy Ward. He saves almost about $7 million in cap space. So I would expect Jimmy Ward to get cut in the near future for the Houston Texans. I love this trade. I'm going to give it an A+ for the Houston Texans. Now let's get into free agency. Start off with probably the biggest signing of the day was the Houston Texans making a move to the offensive line. They signed guard Lincoln Tomlinson, Pro Bowler, but I think the best thing about him, he's a good offensive lineman, no doubt. But the best thing about him in his career, this is crazy, he's played 10 NFL seasons, and in those 10 NFL seasons, he's only missed 1 game. That's like some Jason Kelce type of numbers right there. Only missed 1 game. That was his 3rd season. Missed 1 game with the San Francisco 49ers in 2017. Was with the Seahawks this season, 17 games, 17 starts. Was with the Jets for 2 seasons, didn't miss a game there. Was a Pro Bowler in San Francisco in 2021, 17 games, 17 starts there. 2020 it was still 16 games a season. Played all 16 games there and was in San Francisco in 5 seasons. Only missed 1 game. Started off his career in Detroit. 2 seasons, played every game, and has been a good guard. But I think the good thing about him is he's very available, and he's going to be the new left guard for this Houston Texans team. You're probably thinking, wait, Titus Howard's the left guard. The plan is for Titus Howard to be at left tackle, and then you're going to see, at left guard Laken Tomlinson, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that because Howard's played at left tackle. That's what he was supposed to be for this Houston Texans team before the Texans traded for Laremy Tunsil. Everybody was so excited for Titus Howard to be at left tackle for this Houston Texans team, and then they traded for Tunsil. And so Howard's been at left tackle before, and you don't want to have. You don't want to have Tomlinson, who's played left guard most of his career, switch positions. He's played left guard the majority of his career, and so you don't want that to switch. So he'll be at left guard, and you'll see at left tackle Titus Howard. So, and for one year deal, $4.75 million. I love this deal for this Houston Texans team. All right. Now, there's only one more signing that this Texans team made today that was not in-house. Nick Niemann is a Houston Texan now. 2 years, $6.5 million deal for Nick Niemann. Was a Charger last season, last 4 seasons, 13 games this season, 1 pass defense, 21 tackles. Last year, 2023, 17 games, 3 starts, 1 pass defense, 1 fumble recovery, and then 40 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 1 QB hit. I like this addition because he's a real big special teams player. This also makes me think that Neville Hewitt will not be returning to the Texans, but the Texans have really been huge with adding to special teams this offseason. This signing with Nick Niemann, but also bringing in a guy like Braxton Berrios, who's an amazing kick and punt returner, and then also Tremon Smith, who was with this Houston Texans team, bringing him back. He hasn't been with this team for the last 2 seasons, but bringing him back, and he plays a huge role in special teams. Houston Texans have really improved their special teams unit with adding a Niemann, bringing back Smith, bringing in Berrios. I really like it. Now, the other 2 signings for this Texans team are in-house signings, re-signings. Mario Edwards Jr. is back with the Texans. I was surprised by this because there was some report that Edwards would not be returning. He was at defensive tackle this year for the Texans for the first time in his career and played 13 games. The only 4 games he missed were due to suspension, and those 13 games with 12 starts. He had 2 passes defense with 2 fumble recoveries, 3 sacks, 31 tackles, and he also had 3 tackles. 3 tackles for loss, 8 QB hits, and so he had a really good season. And I'm glad the Texans are bringing him back. It's a 2-year, $9 million deal. And then the other signing for this Houston Texans team that they are making is bringing back MJ Stewart. MJ Stewart, who is a corner, but he's played all over the He's played safety, he's played DB, he's played corner. But this season playing safety for the Texans, played 15 games and had 1 fumble recovery and had 12 tackles for this Texans team. He's been with them the last 3 seasons, had 22 tackles and a fumble recovery in 2023. In 2022, in his first year with the Texans, played 17 games and had a forced fumble. He had 2 fumble recoveries. He had 2 yards returning on those fumble recoveries and had 40-plus tackles for the Texans defense. So he hasn't been as good these last 2 seasons as he was in 2022, but he's been solid. He's also that's another guy that's impacted on special teams for this Texans team. So I like re-signing MJ Stewart. I really do. And so I think that's a solid re-signing for this Texans team. Let me know your thoughts on day 2 of free agency for the Houston Texans. I gave yesterday I said B- or B+. I'll give this day a better. I'll give this day a A-. That's mainly because of the C.J. Gardner-Johnson trade, but I love the Laken Tomlinson signing. I think that's a great addition, and I also love Mario Edwards Jr. being back with the Texans next season. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section, and peace out.